Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plugs Heat Check Live. It is Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Chris Patrick, joined tonight by my co-host, Michael Benjamin. And man, just a power-packed Thanksgiving weekend. I'm so glad to be back at it. I mean, y'all, Friday we had ASU U of A square off in the Territorial Cup. The Phoenix Suns took on the Oklahoma City Thunder in NBA Cup group play and actually gave them a run for their money. On Saturday, the Suns were on a back-to-back, another tough matchup with the Denver Nuggets, and their old friend Cam Johnson rolled into town. Sunday, your Arizona Cardinals lost yet another close game on the road in Tampa Bay. And last night, on the 1st of December, the Phoenix Suns played their third game in 4 days and came out victorious over the number 2 seed Los Angeles Lakers. So many storylines: Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, LeBron James. Oh my goodness, the list goes on and on. There's so much to get into in so little time. But Mike, before we do that, I wanted to check in with you, man. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I am doing great. We've made it to the final calendar month of 2025. There's a lot to be thankful for, even as an Arizona sports fan. Man, this past weekend was a great one because I didn't have to go to State Farm Stadium and actually watch the Arizona Cardinals lose again. Got to play some ball. Got on the links as well. Chris, I'm ready to dive into it. So what do you got for tonight?
Yeah, man, I think we might as well start with the Territorial Cup. We were supposed to have some guests on, but due to some scheduling errors, we'll have to delay that. But we'll do our best to discuss it here, Mike. We did get together and watch this game with the brothers Miller, who were both in town. But unfortunately, the Arizona Wildcats, 23 points win over the Sun Devils 7. It was a game in the first half, 7-3 at the break, but ASU couldn't put up any points in the second half, and the Wildcats kind of put the hammer down, putting up 20. But, Mike, I think the bigger story in this game was those 5 turnovers by the Sun Devils. You had 3 interceptions thrown by Jeff Sims and 2 fumbles lost. Just a really piss poor performance by the Arizona State offense. The defense did the best they could to hold in the first half, but I wonder, how much morale has to play a factor once you see the offense just giving it over time and time again and in bad situations. I think the coaching was fine. It was just the play wasn't exactly there. Mike, like I said, we were watching this game together. What did you see out there during the Territorial Cup?
Well, it was obviously a slow start, and I think that comes with the Territorial Cup overall, right? There's some jitters because even as both of these teams have transitioned to the Big 12, it's no longer the Pac-12. This is the biggest game of the year for all of these guys. Once they come into the school, the hatred starts flowing, whether you're on the side of the Arizona Wildcats or the Arizona State Sun Devils. And we know after the showing that ASU had last year, winning the Big 12 championship and taking Texas to the limit, there were large expectations for this season. And we're going to get into kind of our overall thoughts, I feel like, in regard to how ASU fared this year. But, man, it was a true slow start. Then ASU finally got on the board with that Jeff Sims touchdown. But I think Kenny really touched on it perfectly. If you turn the ball over 5 times comparative to, I don't think U of A had any turnovers. Oh, no, they had 1 fumble. That's correct. You're climbing uphill all game long. And Noah Fafita, after a down year last year, has come back to form after his running mate, Terry what's the guy in Carolina?
Tedoroa McMillan.
That's right. Those guys were best buddies, so he had to kind of reset and readjust from that. But 28 of 45, 286 yards and a touchdown. I wonder if he'll get a shot in the pros, man. He is a little bit undersized. He gives flashes of Kyler Murray, I think a lot of people would say. But the biggest thing, Chris, when you really pinpoint what happened within this game is for all the great that Jeff Sims did stepping in for Sam Leavitt, he truly had his most poorest showing at the worst possible time, because we knew that it was going to be an uphill climb for ASU to get back into the Big 12 championship game, especially with where BYU sat and the kind of last, matchups that both of them and Texas Tech had. but you were hopeful that this team could honestly squeak out a 10-win season with the big injuries they had to Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson this year. And Jeff was really keeping his calm throughout. Nice little win streak to end the season as well. But when you just turn the ball over that much, you really have no chance. And it truly showed in that second half, where every time ASU tried to kind of hit with a little jab, U of A hit them with an uppercut and really just punched them out of this game. So the Territorial Cup heads back to Tucson. The party on 4th Ave was probably just ridiculous, but there's still some things to play for here for ASU, because they're going to have a nice bowl game, probably not the one we wanted, which is going to Arizona now as they move up to number 18. But there's still a silver lining to be had here. But Chris, what did you see out of this year's Territorial Cup? I think it was the 99th overall matchup between these two teams.
Man, that's pretty crazy. It is always, and it is actually, and always billed as one of the oldest rivalries in college football. And I think that says something, and it's impressive. And I think really good that ASU and U of A both went to the Big 12 together from the Pac-12. It is funny. I'm not going to get into it too much here, but over that, the same weekend, the day before Thanksgiving, actually, on Wednesday, USC played the Sun Devils in basketball in the Maui Invitational Championship. Kind of, honestly impressive that ASU was even able to be in that game. But it reminded me of Pac-12 play, just, USC and ASU squaring off in the West Coast schools. I'm very nostalgic for the Pac-10 and the Pac-12. Mike, a lot of people, if you mention the Pac-10, they'll try and correct you. They'll be like, you mean the Pac-12? And it's like, no, son. The Pac-10 was a thing at one point in time. But man, Mike, yeah, I saw a lot of the same as you in this game. And at the end of the day, you can't really be mad at Jeff Sims. He is who he is. And there's a reason, there aren't a lot of backups in college football that are that good, because if they were, they transfer elsewhere. And Jeff Sims has been around. He started at Georgia Tech, went to Nebraska, and came here. And yeah, Sam Leavitt has been in kind of a revelation and taking that helm, but we know about the injury that Liz Frank, he had surgery on, will keep him out about 6 months. And now I do want to talk to you about this. I'd hope to talk to the Millers, but the future of Sam Leavitt being in the balance, I did ask Ben about it when we were watching this game, and he just kind of shrugged and was like, yeah, it is what it is. Like with NIL and the money, if he wants to go make more money, he can certainly do that elsewhere. But if he happens to like ASU and the program and Kenny Dillingham and everything that's going on, then he'll stay. But we'll get into all that. I don't want to get derailed, Mike. This game was disappointing, but given the injuries, Jordan Tyson was in this game. He was out of this game. I think him not really being involved didn't help much either. Raleek Brown was fine. He was getting it going, but I think it's interesting. Udo hasn't really stepped up as much as I think a lot of people thought he would this season. And yeah, it's great that we've gotten more production out of Raleek Brown than I think a lot of people thought, but at the end of the day, there's no filling the void of Cam Scatterbu, who was in attendance for this game, wheeling around with the knee cast or knee brace. I don't know. But yeah, overall disappointing. Mike, I think it was on Pass the Outlet. Maybe it wasn't even on a stream. I mentioned to you that I was softening to the idea of being able to root for the University of Arizona. And I know that might be a hot take. It might be a little sacrilegious, but I don't know if that quite yet extends to football. I think it might be specific to the basketball program for now. And call me bandwagon, but I think that's only because of the sustained success of the University of Arizona basketball program and the lack of any success of Arizona State's basketball program. But with that being said, Mike, I do want to kind of transition. I know that ASU, regardless if they had won this game or not, we're not going to make the Big 12 title game. We're maybe, like you mentioned, I think they're going to get a little bit better of a bowl game. But looking forward past any bowl games or other championship games happening the rest of this college football season, the future of ASU is now in the question for Sam Leavitt as well as Kenny Dillingham. What do you think the odds are individually of each of those men returning, and collectively, what do you think the chances are of both of them returning?
Well, I'm not a true betting man, even though I have started to dabble a little bit more. If you guys listened last week, we hit a nice little parlay at the Cardinals versus Jaguars game. But if I was putting money on anybody to return, I'd put a heavy dose, a nice little bag on Kenny Dillingham to come back. You know, he has truly kind of doubled down a couple of different times talking about how he is a Valley guy. You know, his ties and roots are truly here. He talked about, I think at even one point, how he lives next to his sister and then 2 houses down are his parents. So, you know, the off-field factors will always start to factor into decisions, I think, like that for somebody who, quote unquote, has their dream job, right? You know, Kenny Dillingham is a Sun Devil through and through. And from what he's built, I think he truly wants to see how far he can take it completely. If I'm putting a whole bunch of other money on anybody else, I don't know how much coin I would put on Sam Leavitt at this point because of the NIL extravaganza that continues to fly around within college football. I mean, we started to see it with Lane Kiffin, right? Obviously, everything that happened over the Thanksgiving break and Ole Miss dropping that game when they were poised to possibly have the top spot going into the college football playoff. And it was like the worst kept secret that Lane Kiffin was going to go to greener pastures, if you could even say that, into another SEC program at LSU. Now, LSU does have the standards, if you want to put quote unquote, multiple time national championship winners, just a storied franchise history for a college program, if you want to talk about that. But man, Lane was so close to fulfilling his own prophecy, you could say, with taking Ole Miss to heights that they haven't seen in years on end. I mean, I don't even know if you could go back to, you know, the years of Eli Manning. I'd have to pull up the record books to see how good they were, to be honest with you with that. But those are the kind of things that you're hopeful for in regard to having Sam Leavitt return as a player for Arizona State next year. You just think about how much meat was left on the bone this season alone. With we can get now into kind of our overall thoughts on how the season went for the Sun Devils. I think some people will say that it is a disappointment, but I don't know how you truly can. With them losing Sam Leavitt almost halfway through the season, if not a little bit beforehand, and then Jordan Tyson missing how many games? 4 or 5 plus. And he tried to do the valiant effort and come back and play in that Territorial Cup game. But his first target comes down with the hamstring injury. And you're not going to put him into a situation where he might get further injured, because we know his NFL draft stock is really up there. But it's going to be a tough sell, I think, especially when you're losing the running mate of Sam Leavitt this upcoming year, and in Jordan Tyson being almost the unanimous top 10 pick at this point. And we know that the culture is changing very quickly. It seems like day by day with Arizona State, even if you might say the goal wasn't met this year, it was always going to be a true undertask to take this season for ASU when you lose your bell cow and somebody who was the true spearhead of change in the Valley at Arizona State in Cam Scatterbo. So, man, I don't know. And we know, we heard the rumblings about Sam Leavitt, and then his brother came out on social media and said nothing has been discussed and whatnot. But when you have a high-profile quarterback, specifically quarterback like that in Sam Leavitt, and the day and age that we have in NIL and truly no restrictions where teams can throw as much money at them as possible, it just kind of seems unlikely that Sam Leavitt is going to last in the Valley. But I truly hope he does. So if you guys are joining us or watching back right now, Chris Patrick had to step away for a little bit. So I'm going to be helming the ship to go forward. But I do want to touch on probably one of the craziest plays that I have seen in a football game in a long time, guys. And unfortunately, for some, you would say that it goes alongside the wrong team. And that was this ridiculous interception by Treydan Stukes over Jaron Hamilton, who, when I was looking back, Jaron Hamilton, I don't think had any other targets. He didn't have a catch at all in the game. But at that point, it was the third turnover of the night for Sims. You love taking shots within certain situations, but this was just truly a play where a guy made almost kind of a superhuman play, just jumping, extending, being able to corral that as well, going to the ground is just ridiculous. But Chris, welcome back. This is the last thing I wanted to touch on. But I guess we can talk about your newfound possible fandom for U of A, because I got some thoughts just overall high on that. But what'd you think about this play, man? I think this was the play in the game when it happened that truly turned the tides the complete wrong way for Arizona State at that point. What'd you think?
Yeah, Mike, thanks for holding it down. When duty calls. But man, this play, I think it really took all the wind out of the proverbial sails. It was the second interception, and I think any momentum that ASU might have had that time was just kaput, if you will. And I remember, from kind of this point on in the entire second half, not really being admittedly very engaged in the game. And I think U of A scored right after this. So it was 17-7. And at that point, the way the ASU offense had been playing for damn near 3 full quarters of the game at that point, you were just, the writing was on the wall, and you kind of saw where this one was heading. And wasn't great, man. It wasn't great.
Yeah, it's just an absolutely incredible play. I know a lot of our Sun Devil fans are going to hate that we brought it up, but we love ball, man. And if you have that kind of a play, it has to be put on a stage for people to kind of reminisce a little bit on. But Chris, while you were away, I kind of touched on, my thoughts on Sam Leavitt. In the day and age of NIL, it's really going to be a hard task, I think, to keep him in the Valley, even though you hope that he sees, the bigger picture of what that he has really started to build going back to last year. Him and Cam Scadaboo spearheaded this new culture at Arizona State alongside with Kenny Dillingham, and you'd love to see him see it through. But when you're putting, I don't even know, a guy who was a Heisman Trophy candidate early to start the season, when you're dangling $5 million+ in front of his nose, a kid is going to bite at it at least and start to see what his options are. So it's going to be a tall task, but I can't wait to have the Miller brothers on, because we're going to talk some ASU U of A basketball coming up here soon as well. I believe their first matchup, if I'm not mistaken, is January 12th in Tucson. And then the next one is January. Oh man, Chris, can you look that up for me? I might be wrong. I think it might be December for the first matchup, but I know the first game's in Tucson and the second one is in Tempe. I already started looking at the tickets for the Tempe matchup. Good luck finding anything under $150 in the lower bowl already, because we know Arizona is a powerhouse right now, ranked number 2 in the nation to start this year, with some really key wins over some of the best in the nation, I would say. But overall, Chris, you're going to get hate, I think, if you show true compassion or not favor, but a rooting interest for either or in this specific rivalry, because we talked about, it's almost so storied and so long that generations, families, generations have picked a side. So if you haven't picked a side at this point, it's kind of who are you? You know what I'm saying? You're sitting in no man's land. But the best thing about this Territorial Cup, and the best thing that we hope to see continue from both of these programs, is winning success. Because if you talk about Arizona State, 2 straight winning seasons after, a tough start, which was expected from the Kenny Dillingham era. But then Arizona, after, finishing almost top 10 with a huge bowl game and and a Pac-12 championship, I believe at that point, then Jed Fish leaving for Washington, U of A struggling last season, then coming back under the leadership of Noah Fafita. And, having that game be between both of the teams being ranked. That's what you want every single year. And I hope to see that continue from both sides. So either way, man, what a showing. I cannot wait for next year because we know it's going to look totally different. Both of these quarterbacks might not be back, probably won't be back next year. So there's going to be different rooting interests to go along with that. But Chris, should we stick with football, man? Should we stick with football and just get through the dregs a little bit with the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, man, it's funny. That's where I was kind of starting to queue it up for before things kind of got off the rails there for a little bit. My apologies, but I'm glad you filled me in because I didn't get to hear most of that. Obviously, came in hopped right in back as soon as I could. But I did want to kind of share a little bit of my musings on Sam Leavitt, if I could, real quick, because I think I might have a bit of a different take, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe this is the obvious take, but I don't think Sam Leavitt really cares about the college money because the couple $1 million he will make in college is chump change to what he could make in comparison to the NFL. So I think when Sam Leavitt's thinking about, at least if this is what I would do if I was Sam Leavitt, I would be thinking about how can I maximize my draft stock through one more year of college to be a first round pick in the NFL draft in 2027. Because if you look at the current, CBA or whatever determines it, a number one, not a number one pick, but a first round pick in the NFL, I'm pretty sure makes about $12 million. And what is this? This is probably looks like Sam Leavitt's brother Dallin denies the reports on his IG story. Yeah, so he's denying on IG the Pete Nako story where he broke that Sam Leavitt would be leaving ASU and entering the transfer portal. Dallin said that he hadn't made any decision yet. And I looked this up. Dallin is his brother and his agent and did play in the NFL, I believe, for the Raiders and a few other teams potentially. Regardless, to my point, though, I think Sam Leavitt is going to look at what's best for him to have maximum draft stock. And if that's ASU, then he's going to come back. If he likes the relationship with Kenny Dillingham and everything that they're doing, if they're able to bring some weapons, back to support him, ASU could be an attractive destination, but I don't know right now who that would be. Jordan Tyson is going to be in the draft. He's going to be a first or second round pick, guaranteed, probably a first round pick if I had to guess. And so does he have more of an opportunity to go to LSU? I think the cynic and the Arizona sports fan in me would laugh so hard if he and think it's funny if he went to LSU, balled won a Heisman, that'd be the second ASU to LSU quarterback to win a Heisman and then go be a first round pick in the NFL and find success. With all that being said, I don't know if he's going to come back. And I think Ben probably said it best when I asked him. He just shrugged. I don't know. I could just as likely see him coming back as I think it's likely that he could enter the transfer portal. And honestly, I don't blame him either way. We'll just have to see where the cards fall. Mike, I did look that up. ASU plays U of A in basketball on Wednesday, the 14th of January in Tucson, and Saturday, the 31st of January in Tempe. So that would be the game to go to, I think, the one here in Tempe, right?
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, you'd have to make a real quick a little over 2 hour drive to Tucson on a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, because that game on January 14th.
For an 8:30 p.m. tip off.
Oh, hey, so you wouldn't even need to take time off, right?
No,
you could just
I mean,
at 5.
maybe the next day.
Next day. But yeah, those are going to be some fun matchups. ASU is playing some surprising basketball right now. Pig Glizzy is all the rage. I know, oh man, who's the kid who dropped 36 against, was it Washington State? No, they played in the semifinals. They played Washington State, and then they did unfortunately lose to USC in the Maui Invitational. But a great showing from them, ready to come back to the Valley and keep some good momentum going because like we've already kind of touched on, this might be Bobby Hurley's last hurrah if he can't actually make the top 64, if I'm not mistaken. It was the game before this, Chris, where the kid had, where I think Maurice Odom had 36, if I'm not mistaken, because he was
quite a bit in that game too.
Yeah, he was flame throwing, and then he hit a nice 3-pointer with about 8 seconds left that I think shocked Texas.
Yeah,
and they
owed
were
him
able to
36.
hold on to get that win. But Anthony Johnson, aka Pig Glizzy, if you're not following him on socials, give him a follow. It's a good time for sure. But can't wait to talk some more ASU with the Miller brothers coming up soon, probably this month. So keep an eye out.
Yes, sir. I look forward to that as well. But Mike, enough of delaying the inevitable. We do have to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. As you mentioned, keeping it pushing with the football. I'm glad that you didn't have to see yet another loss. And you're not going to go this Sunday, right? When they're taking on the Rams.
We'll find out. So
TBD.
you know, when I won the season tickets, I went through and figured out who's going to which game. So VSP Tallman and I were slated to go this Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams, who we know are coming off a tough loss to the Carolina Panthers. I'm just so utterly scared that the Rams are going to come out, drop 50 points on us, and it's going to be a 50-7 game because they are fighting for the number one spot now at this point. Technically, they're fighting for the NFC West because the other two teams have 9 wins and have almost the same record. I think the Seattle Seahawks have one less win because they haven't had their bye, or it might be swapped with or one more loss. Because they haven't had their bye, or it's the Niners. But yeah, I'm just kind of at a loss at this point. We've talked a lot about what expectations were for year 3 of a rebuild and what we've seen so far. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but man, I'm up in the air to see if I'll be at State Farm Stadium this Sunday, but let's roll into it, Chris.
Yeah, man. I mean, so it was the game this Sunday was the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the early slot on the East Coast, which is always kind of tough, I feel like, for these Cardinals teams to travel and then play in the early slot. And although it's past the what is it, daylight savings time, so it would only technically be like 8 a.m. here. When you're in Arizona, you're not playing until 2:30 in the afternoon. Regardless, you'd hope they're professional, they'll be ready to go. Jacoby Brissett, once again, not doing terrible, but not doing enough to win the game. 301 yards passing, 29 on 40 attempts. So a lot of people in the Kyler Murray camp, we call them the Kyler Murray stands, love to post the meme of winning with Kyler Murray or losing with Kyler Murray versus losing with Jacoby Brissett, and it's that painting of the person on the train, and they're looking out the one window, and it's like the beautiful landscape, and they're looking out the other window, and it's just a rock wall. But I mean, come on, man. The proof is in the pudding. The offense looks a lot better with Jacoby Brissett, and I think a lot of it, honestly, has come down to coaching decisions more than the actual play of a lot of these players. And Mike, I think we will be able to pick apart a couple of those plays at least, but the running situation, or I guess the ground game, if you'll call it that, has been dismal. You got Bam Knight here with 62 yards on 11 carries. I've not been impressed with Zonovan whatsoever. Marvin Harrison Jr. came back, but then went out in this game with an injury. Michael Wilson still looking pretty solid, not too bad. And of course, we got our boy Trey McBride. You just want so much more for him. But Mike, in a game where, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were not impressive by any means. Like, this is a classic case of the Cardinals losing this game, right? And not the Buccaneers winning it.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers wanted to wrap this one in beautiful gift wrap, put the bow around it, and hand it over to the Arizona Cardinals. But once again, finally, it seemed like Johnathan Gannon was getting a little bit more candid in his thoughts and feelings about how the season has been going when he spoke to the press on Monday. And he finally addressed that this team just does not know how to win. And a lot of it is coming down to decisions, late game decisions, and the little things in between as well. We talk about another missed field goal from Chad Ryland, just, a really poor decision, I think, from Jacoby Brissett in that one and only interception he did have, but going into the red zone, looking to get points and take an early claim within this game and before you know it, you're looking up at the scoreboard once again, and it's 17-3, and the Arizona Cardinals are finding themselves down by multiple scores trying to fight back within this game. The thing to remember about this season, if you do want to remember anything, is they do fight, right? They fight to the bitter end, it seems like, right? They go down. They have Jacoby has a nice kind of like behind his body throw to Bam Knight for a touchdown. And then he also finds Trey McBride as well. And I will touch on Trey. I have to touch on Trey. That'll probably be the last thing I talk about before we end this segment on the Cardinals as well. But let's talk about the plays, Chris. You know we have to. The 3rd and 1 play call for the deep shot to Michael Wilson. Probably what we wanted the previous week instead of going to Xavier Weaver. But, once again, finds himself in double coverage and just not the best thrown ball. And what do? They come out on the 4th and 1 where you don't hate that play call because I think they're on the 40. But I don't hate the decision, but I hate the play call. We're calling a stretch where this Arizona Cardinals run game has truly been inept ever since James Conner went down. And you could say it was inept when he was in the first 2.5 games, technically, if you want to say, of this season as well, when he was in there. But they were seeing a lot better of, gaps in this previous game up the middle. And then you decide to have him step back 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and have to gain 5. I never understand those calls, and especially if it's something that hasn't worked all day long. So, and needless to say, we have to listen to Drew Petzing, just spew nonsense consistently in front of the microphone today, talking about how it was the right play call. And Chris, I don't know if you saw the reports that Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense knew what the Arizona Cardinals were calling on multiple occasions. And Drew Petzing comes out and says that that's not a course for worry. What? What are you talking about? You're so unimpressive and non-creative that these veteran coaches in the NFL are able to sniff you out basically with their eyes closed. So, man, we are at the point now, Chris, and I'd love to see your thoughts on this, where if you are an Arizona Cardinals fan, there is going to be changes made. I wonder what kind of major changes will truly be made at the end of the season. But we are already at the point, as we have just hit the 2nd day of December, and technically were eliminated before December began, where we have to now root for the Arizona Cardinals to lose games for the rest of this year. And we have 5 games left. Now, if you're in that camp like me, where you really just want them to lose so you get a better draft pick and have better spots in each round, the schedule at least gives you the favor to look at it and say, well, there's maybe one more win on there, and that's the Atlanta Falcons, but I don't even know at that point. So what'd you see on Sunday, man? How are you feeling about this squad?
I'm at the lowest point I possibly can with this Cardinals team. And I hate to be that fan, but it's like at a certain point, you really, like, we've known this. You have to look at ownership. And at what point, like, we've known Michael Bidwell's a problem. At what point does Michael Bidwell care? And will he ever care? Is there at any point, would it have to like impact him financially for him to start caring? But we know that may never be the case, because there are enough people from out of town and who just want to see a football game that will buy tickets to keep going to these games, and they'll keep buying the casitas. Nobody will buy Casa Rojas tickets, but apparently it doesn't matter. I mean, Mike, it's ridiculous to lose a game like this to Tampa Bay. I honestly don't know how you beat Dallas here, but you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You've lost 9 of your last 10, and it's just embarrassing. Doesn't even begin to paint the picture. And then you have everything going on with Kyler Murray and his phantom injury that's now kept him out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, and he's eligible to return to practice, but he's not quite ready, and he's going to stay on the IR but he hasn't had surgery as far as anybody knows. And there is just zero about Kyler Murray, this soft benching that everybody knows. But again, we've done that and only won one game with Jacoby Brissett. So Kyler Murray's won 200% more games than Jacoby Brissett has won, which obviously isn't fair because you're talking about really pathetic performances against the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers, which honestly we really tried to give away. Should have been blowouts, but weren't. And I think the writing was on the wall from the beginning, and we kind of hung our hats on a lot of the close games that followed that, and like, 5 losses, but only 13 points combined. And then everything just got off the rails real fast. And Mike, I am worried when Todd Bowles is saying we saw everything coming, and it gives credence to Cardinals fans crying for Drew Petzing's head, because he kind of sucks. He sucks with Kyler Murray. And now even with a competent quarterback with competent receivers, not really much of a competent running game, but you're not able to really do anything, and you're not seeing anything worth being impressed by. I don't know. I don't know, man. You do have to see some change. You do.
There are a lot of fundamental issues with this Arizona Cardinals team, Chris. It's not just the offense. It's not just the play calling. It has been the special teams and at points it has been the defense. You talk about 40 plus points given up multiple times, getting drubbed by division opponents, basically looking at another season 0-6 in the division again, just so far beyond the worst team in the NFC West. They are the Arizona Cardinals, but you're just asking so much out of Jacoby Brissett right now, I think. And it's specifically, like you said, because of the ineptitudes of the running game. And I don't think it truly is just a personnel situation. Yes, technically Bam Knight and Michael Carter are 3rd and 4th on your depth chart, but we know this offensive line has been utterly atrocious this entire season. Our inside guards have been swapped in and out. Jonah Williams was just possibly one of the worst free agent signings that this regime has made, if not the worst so far. And thankfully, we won't have to see him in an Arizona Cardinals uniform again. But, basically kind of, I think how I was touching on last week, it's the wishy-washiness of this team where if one side of the football finally steps up, the other one continues to let them down, right? You could say for the past 2 weeks, the defense has done its job, right? You hold a Baker Mayfield-led team who, yes, has been struggling, had lost 3 straight, but Baker's been solid these past 3 seasons and has really turned around the narrative for him as a quarterback and one of the best in the league, if you truly think about it. They're missing weapons too. Yes, there's injuries. It's football. It always happens. But to only muster 17 points against this Buccaneers team that is on the ropes, I know you're on the road, but we are now at the point where anytime the Arizona Cardinals have the football to make any kind of just game deciding plays or change a narrative, like maybe you have a lead, you have a 3-point lead with the ball, 4 minutes left, or like we saw this past Sunday, you get the ball, granted on the 10-yard line with 1 timeout in 2 minutes. I don't think any fan right now has literally any faith that this team is going to put together the right decisions to go down and either tie a game or win it. And that's what has happened this entire season. And it's proven by their record, obviously, at this point. But, another 300-yard game for Jacoby. Like, Marv was doing good, 6 catches, 69 yards. We talked about Trey McBride. But then it kind of goes back to the same thing. Michael Wilson had 25 catches in the last 2 games, granted, because he was propelled up to wide receiver 1. 3 catches for 36 yards. That's kind of unacceptable, I would say. Like, if a guy is literally setting franchise records and truly on a heater, you kind of want to force feed him the football at that point. But they were more predicated on getting Marv back into the fold, which we talked about in the past is what we wanted. But when the season goes along and you see that somebody is ready to take the helm, continue to feed that engine and see where that will go and then work other people in around them. But that's where this coaching staff, this franchise, everybody just doesn't know how to get on a certain semblance of any kind of page to see success. And that's why they continue to lose.
Yeah, Mike, 100% there. Like you can ease Marvin Harrison Jr. back into play. He hasn't played for what, 2 weeks at that point, coming off an appendicitis. I think he had surgery. Did he have an appendectomy? I think
appendicitis surgery. Yep.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't ready to play. Obviously, like Mike said, 6 catches for 69 yards is not bad. But Michael Wilson's hot. Feed the hot hand. But instead, you're continuing to throw passes to Xavier fucking Weaver in clutch situations. I truly don't understand that. And I don't, again, it's hard to tell where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Is that a Jacoby Brissett decision late in game? Or is that like a scheme thing late in game where Drew Petzing thinks he's like mastermind, where he's like, man, it's the fourth quarter, game's on the line. They think we're going to pass it to Trey McBride on a quick 10 and out. No, we're going to throw it to Xavier Weaver on the screen. And like, Mike, I think you talked about it, just the atrocious clock management where Greg Dortch is not getting out of bounds. Michael Carter obviously catches it in the middle of the field. That's not his fault. But my goodness, you got to think there's a reason Tampa Bay is giving you the entire world. It's because they know that you have this team has absolutely no sense of urgency and just I mean, Mike, am I supposed to just not believe my eyes and I just have to believe that this team gives a shit when they just are like, here I go. I got 35 seconds left and 80 yards to go with 3. I got to get a field goal. I got to get in field goal range, but let me just mosey on down here. I want to rewind a little bit. There is one play I did want to talk about because on my drive into work this morning, I heard Johnathan Gannon. They were talking about, I think it was Monday. He was on local radio and he was defending his decision to go for it on 4th and 1 with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. At that point, they're down 10-17 on their own 39. And Mike, I have to ask you if you believe this. He said, again, on their own 39 with 10 minutes left, they're down by 7. He said that the analytics say to go for it within 5 yards. If they were on the 39-yard line on 4th and 5, he says the analytics say to go for that. Do you buy that? Do you believe Johnathan Gannon's telling the truth?
I don't know. And that's where we have got to at this point with Johnathan Gannon. And basically anytime this coaching staff sets in front of the media. I was listening to that interview as well, Chris. I don't know if you got the sense of Johnathan Gannon is just done with the shit. Like super short answers, obviously didn't want to elaborate on anything. And he just kind of seemed pissed off that questions were being asked. And Gambo was asking the right questions because these are the ones that we have too.
He was combative, yeah.
4th and 5 on the 39. I need to see the printouts from the analytics that are telling me that that's the right call for it. So I'm with you. I think it's bull.
And if those are the analytics, dude, ignore them. Throw that shit away. I mean, like, there's some time-tested stuff in sports that you just really don't fuck with. And I know like there has been a lot of advancement with advanced analytics in baseball, football, basketball, I'm sure hockey, and name a sport. I'm sure there are numbers and things that you can crush. But like, man, come on, punt it there, especially because you turned it over on downs. And Mike, you know what happened? 3 and out. And they were in field goal range, so they got 3 more fucking points. Where if you had punted it and played the same exact defense, they would have had to punt it. Like Johnathan Gannon, like either you just are like so like you trust whatever person is in your ear with like the analytics say this. Oh, I'm 45% sure on this. And you just trust him without like thinking for yourself, then I'm sorry, Mike. I can't think of a nice way to say this. Johnathan Gannon, if you believe that, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm sorry, because like any Joe Schmo first time, long time that calls into the radio show knows this stuff.
It's truly remarkable how it seems like Johnathan Gannon is ready to go down with the ship in every decision that he makes, right? This is what I want. I just want a hand up. I need some accountability at some point, man, because every single time he comes out and the questions are asked about specific plays, he says, I love the call. I thought this is the right play. This is what they call for. This is what this situation depicts on how you should approach it. Guess what, Johnathan? Literally every decision that you have made when it comes down to those specific key moments has been wrong this entire year. Every single decision has been wrong. And it's in those key moments where they wilt away, the play call is incorrect, and then the Arizona Cardinals find themselves losing those football games because they give better field position or just run out of time for the rest of situations down the stretch in all of these games. So like I said, I think I'll double down on this as well. He's moving like a man who knows he's not going to be fired. So he's not going to put a hand of accountability up. He's not going to apologize for this porous product that he's been putting in front of the fans. He's not going to say anything but either than we'll figure it out. So I guess if you want to stick around, you might as well. So, this goes back into me talking about if I'm going to the Rams game this season or this next week, Chris. I told myself before this year started, I would go to all of these games because I was privileged with receiving free season tickets. So it gets really easy to just give away or sell tickets when you didn't pay for them, right? But, my background too, I hadn't gone for a couple of years, and I was very excited this year to get out to State Farm Stadium on a consistent basis to watch my favorite team. But the Arizona Cardinals have drug us and the fans directly through the mud, where I've seen 5 straight weeks of inept football to the point where they lose at the last second of all of these games too, Chris. I think that's what's been really just sinking further into me and making it harder to muster up the energy to continue to go out there. Now, obviously, I think there's some extenuating circumstances. I've caught the golf bug. I want to get out there. Just golfed, want to golf again. Trying to golf when the weather is perfect in Arizona. But it also makes sense that, why would I want to go see this team get absolutely hammered when I just saw them get killed by the San Francisco 49ers and it's going to be a Rams full house? That's where this team has put us at this point. So before we move on to the positives, Chris, because it's been too negative this entire year, is there anything else you have to say about Johnathan, this coaching staff, where we sit for the rest of this year? But I guess, and then answer my question. Do you feel like the Cardinals really should just lose the rest of these games and almost like put Keaton Slovis in at some point coming up here so we make sure to lose them? What do you think about that?
That's interesting. Maybe they could come up with a phantom injury for Jacoby Brissett as well, and then they can both just be on the bench. Yeah, Mike, absolutely, they should lose the rest of these games. But in true Arizona sports fashion, they're going to win a game they shouldn't. Looking at the schedule here, Mike, you're absolutely right. That is just going to be a Los Angeles home game in Glendale. We went to that playoff game between the Rams and the Vikings last year when they were displaced because of the fires. And man, all those fans that were at that game are going to be at the game on Sunday. So I absolutely would not blame you for not going to that game. But man, 2 more games left. Could be fun, but it's a whole day. That's the whole day to go out there to Glendale. The Falcons is the one that I think I initially said I wanted to go to. And we kind of pivoted off of because you had some other plans to go there. But Mike, I'm kind of bummed now because come that time it'll be fantasy football playoffs, and it would have been so cool to see Bijan Robinson potentially winning me a fantasy football championship in person. But I digress, because I think that would have been the semifinals anyway, so it wouldn't have necessarily lined up.
Are you sure? No, I feel like, we do fantasy championships week 17. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say, don't put your chickens to roost just yet. So
don't put the chickens before the horse, or don't count your horses before they hatch. Or or don't count your carts before. I'm mixing it up.
Put the horseshoe in the front of the cart because you
That's
might
it.
have an opportunity to go that game. Because I also might have an event I have to go to that, so I might not be able to go. So maybe you can have those tickets, Chris. But that's
Ooh, we'll
beyond
talk.
the fact.
We'll talk. Yeah.
We'll talk. So obviously, every year as the season goes on, we will do, or at the end of the season, my apologies, we'll do a recap of the year, obviously. And we talk about the Cardinals every week, it seems like, because we were born into this, unfortunately. But I don't want to wait until the end of the year to talk about the positives, Chris, because even with a 3-9 record, there really has been. And there are two specific players that I need to talk about right now because I've been truly so impressed with what they've been doing this year. And one of them is a new face to the Valley, the big money man from the Philadelphia Eagles, Josh Sweat. This past weekend, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Clearly deserved to be getting this post for Pro Bowl votes. He tied his career high in sacks already with 11 sacks, and he still has 5 more games. So you're talking about possibly 15 sack year. Let's look back into the record books. When was the last time the Arizona Cardinals had a double-digit sack guy? Probably J.J. Watt, but then before that, Chandler Jones. Before that, Calais Campbell the first time around. You know, that we just haven't seen consistent edge rush dominance like we have seen from Josh Sweat. And it was kind of a slow build to start this year just because of the defensive line depth that we truly did have and we thought we did before the injuries started to come about, right? You know, with Darius Robinson going down for a couple of games and, you know, Calais having to step up and play more snaps than he needed to. And they were trying to smooth him into this situation. But Josh Sweat has been an absolute game wrecker for the Arizona Cardinals on that defensive line this entire year. It's money well spent so far, and I'm very happy we have him shirt up for the future because I hope true success is coming sooner than later. But Chris, what have you liked this year from Josh Sweat, man?
Oh man, I just love his ability to get into the backfield and get to the quarterback. I mean, you really said it there. Like we really haven't had a pass rusher like this in a long time, and it's a rare company to have double digit sacks in a season as a Cardinal, which is kind of sad to say, right? But I think it's only been a handful of guys. And you're talking about an organization that goes back a long way. So when we look at Johnathan Gannon, and I do think you're right, where he doesn't fear for his job. He knows he's going to be here. I think they're going to blame a lot of this on Kyler Murray, but Josh Sweat is a Gannon guy. Gannon was a defensive guy with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he coached Josh Sweat. So bringing him here, he calls him Sweaty J. I don't know if I would love the nickname Sweaty, even if my last name was Sweat, but I'm sure they have a good enough relationship where he's okay with it. And I'm sure Gannon's not the only one who calls him that. But man, I mean, this is his first season. He's going to be here for a little bit. So it's nice to have a cornerstone like that on the defense, especially when you consider that the identity of this defense is probably going to make a transformation over the next couple seasons as Budda Baker gets up there in age and eventually phases out. I think, Mike, I don't know if we had talked about this on stream or not, but I'm pretty sure we only got a season, maybe 1 season left of Budda Baker.
His time might be running up, and obviously, you know, we're proud and very thankful for all of the incredible years that Budda Baker has given to this franchise. But I think he is under contract for a couple of years. He did get that extension. Was it last season or the season before? But he's just not the same player, like you said. So it's always awesome to get fresh blood in here and see those defensive stalwarts that you paid big money for pay dividends early and often, and it's been awesome to see. But I kind of prefaced it before when we started talking about this loss once again to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Chris, I don't think we've really sat down and talked about what we are watching from Trey McBride. If you look at this right now, most receptions by a tight end in the first 4 seasons, Trey McBride has now catapulted to the top of that list, and he still has 5 more games. After another great showing, finding the end zone once again, 8 catches, 82 yards. This year, he's already at 88 catches, 879 yards, and 8 touchdowns. When last year we know he was allergic to the end zone, only had 2 touchdowns. It seems like you can pencil him in on your anytime touchdown every single week now. It has been utterly impressive, to say the least, to see what we have been seeing from Trey McBride, Chris. He leads the NFL in receptions. Amazing. Obviously, he leads the NFL tight ends in yards and touchdowns, but he's 12 catches away from becoming the first NFL tight end to have back-to-back 100-plus reception seasons. I find that really hard to believe with the likes of, obviously, Travis Kelce. You get another guy on that list right there, Jimmy Graham, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, just the greats of the game. Trey McBride is already etching himself into that Mount Rushmore. And he's 28 catches away from setting the NFL single season record for catches by a tight end, which, trivia question, is 116 in 2018 by our own Zach Ertz. So he is well on pace to just set every possible record with 5 games left in this season. What have you liked from Trey McBride? Big play Trey this year, Chris.
Oh God, man. He is the only, like, one of the only shining, or bright spots on this team right now. And it's you want to see the team do well for Trey. Cause I hate to keep bringing up the radio guys, but it's what I listen to, man. And they were talking about, when you think of Trey McBride and him potentially being in the Cardinals Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor, whatever it's called, you want him to not just have these individual accolades. You want to remember him for the great teams that he played for. And unfortunately, he just hasn't played for any great teams yet. And his career is young. He has a hopefully a long road ahead of him and an opportunity to do that. I think he will be, if you can keep him happy, you'll definitely keep him paid. He's one of the highest paid tight ends, briefly was the highest paid tight end in the league. But man, these accolades are very impressive. And I think tight ends have been historically underrated, but in recent history are starting to get a little more recognition and deservingly so. And the tight end stats, I feel like, aren't tracked as closely because they kind of end up getting lumped in with receivers. And I don't think that's really fair because they're called upon to do a lot more as well as blocking and receiving. Obviously, you can be one or the other, but the receiving tight ends like Trey McBride, sure hands, can always rely on him. But his intensity is something I think that really impresses me. He has that fire in him, his ability to turn it on and really ignite his team. But also, when it comes to the post game, be able to have a more light approach, explain what he's seeing, and a real intelligent player as well. So Trey McBride's the kind of guy you want on your team. I can tell he's a leader in the locker room and really trending in the right direction. But again, I just really hope that the Cardinals do right by him, get a good quarterback in here with a good offensive coordinator, some good weapons around him, and can really, get this guy into the playoffs. Cause I think he'd have a lot of fun and be, that intensity he brings. Imagine that on the playoff stage, man.
One day we will get there. If you really think and sit down about this Arizona Cardinals squad, there is talent. There's talent all over the board. It has just been truly mismanaged this year. And that's why I think this is one of the most disappointing seasons we've seen in probably the past 25 years. But with that being said, when you go through a down year, you got to try and find the bright spots. And the bright spot so far and above has been Josh Sweat, and specifically Trey McBride. Man, I can't wait to see what kind of records he sets this year, where he finishes off. Because last year he had 111 catches. He was only 5 off of that NFL tight end record. I imagine he smashes it this year because he's going to have 8+ catches for the rest of these games, especially if the Arizona Cardinals are consistently playing from behind. But it's been truly impressive. I cannot wait to see what happens next for Trey. And we're going to keep an eye on everything Arizona Cardinals as we go into, a Black Monday sooner than we hoped for this season. And we'll go from there. But yeah, keep an eye out, Chris. Maybe you'll find yourself at one more game this year and you can see Bijan and Trey, because you got Trey too. So You could
It's
be
true.
hoping for a big day from both of those guys to set you up for a chance in the dance for fantasy football.
Yeah, that could make me super anxious or be super exciting. I think it could go either way. But yeah, Mike, we'll talk off the rip. But yeah, I mean, it sucks that we're already looking ahead with the Arizona Cardinals. We're thinking about next season, and you never want that to be the case. And it seems like it's been the case more often than not with not only the Cardinals but all of our Arizona sports teams. And I really thought that the Suns were kind of one of those teams where it's like, man, no expectations coming into this season. Honestly, not going to make the playoffs, not going to win a lot of games, but maybe it'll be cool to see a glimpse of what the future could look like. And Mike, expectations shattered. Just the roof has been blown off of the mortgage matchup center or whatever the fuck they're calling it these days. But your Phoenix Suns are 13-9, and let me check. I think I have the standings pulled up here. Seventh in the West. Challenging to be sixth and not even have to play in the play-in tournament. The Timberwolves are actually losing by 2 right now to the Pelicans. The Pelicans who are 3-18. So it's the Wild West, man, and anything could happen. Jordan Ott has this team humming, playing hard defense, moving the basketball, playing fun offense. And in a game last night against the Los Angeles Lakers, the number 2 team in the West with a 15-4 record at the time, the Suns pulled that out with Dylan Brooks and Colin Gillespie. Jalen Green obviously still injured. Devin Booker went out in the first in that game. Mike, tell me about the Phoenix Suns. You got to see them up close and personal a couple times already this season.
Well, you already said 2 of the catalysts, man. This team is truly being driven right now by the villains. The villain number 1 and villain junior. I mean, you just talk about what happened last night. You said it. Book goes down with the groin injury, which let me look at the calendar. Yep, seems about the right time for that to happen on a yearly basis for Book. You hate to say it, but this is what it is. This is season 11 from Devin Booker, so we have plenty of tape on his injury history. But one point, Dylan Brooks hit 10 straight field goals last night, had 23 points at halftime, finished with 33. He has been truly filling it up at a masterful level, even though his shot is a little crazy. I might say so myself. It's a little bit of a kind of shot put shot, but it looks good every time it's going in. And then obviously what you're being paced by from that second unit, but now who has had to step in a couple of times with Grayson Allen being hurt and Colin Gillespie. Last night, 28 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. He also had another incredible game in that second to last NBA Cup game against the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. Almost had a double-double, 21 points, 9 assists, 2 steals. Wow. I mean, there is so much flowers that need to be given to those 2 guys right now to continue to pace, but Jordan Ott has been finding the solutions with the mismatch and the hodgepodgeness, I guess you could say, which probably isn't a true word. Hodgepodgeness, probably not so much. But
We know
the Suns are still dealing with injuries, right? We're still waiting for Jalen Green, even though that 4-week reevaluation, I think, is hitting either today or tomorrow. So he could be right around the corner. Grayson Allen was down with that. I believe it was a thigh bruise, like deep thigh bruise or something. And he had come back, but then missed this past game against LA with illness, if I'm not mistaken. And now Book's going to be down probably for a couple of games. I don't know if we've heard the true verdict just yet, but they're going to play patience with that. And then talk about, the big man, Mark Williams, still not playing back-to-back. So they have been juggling rotations. And it's still been coming up green, man, and everybody has been contributing. Royce O'Neal sets his personal record with 11 assists last night. Oso Ighodaro has seen like just a lot more comfortable playing in his big man role. Ryan Dunn has been stepping up and doing all the little nitty-gritty work that needs to be done from a guy like that. It's truly impressive, and it's what we were hopeful for, I think, with this cast of characters, right? This was the high end of hopes, right? But you still look at this schedule, Chris, and if you can pull it up, because the tasks are becoming daunting once again. And On our last Pass the Outlet, we talked about what was coming up, and it is starting to show, right? After that win on the 23rd against the San Antonio Spurs, Houston comes to town with no Kevin Durant, but they are so long, lanky, athletic. That was going to be an uphill climb. You get that win against Sacramento, but then you have to go, and you do go toe-to-toe with the previous champions, Oklahoma City Thunder, and you're going to get them really soon as well. But you lose to Denver Nuggets, who I still think is a top 2 team in the West. I don't care if the Lakers are technically in that second spot. But then you got Houston again, Minnesota, who is going to have something to prove after losing that tough game to you. And then you have that NBA Cup quarterfinal going back to Oklahoma City once again. And how do you feel the Phoenix Suns are going to continue to pace along with the possibility of missing Devin Booker for, I don't know, maybe an extended amount of time?
Yeah, it makes me nervous with Devin Booker going out. And it's funny you had mentioned the annual nature of Devin Booker's injury. Is so it seems we talk about it a lot on Pass the Outlet, but it worries me, from a standpoint of, you want Devin Booker to continue to flourish. And I thought this was a year, especially once Jalen Green wasn't going to be a part of it, where he could really lead a team and be the primary option. And there was lip service to that for the past couple of years, but he was always kind of going to take a backseat to Kevin Durant. So now this was Booker's opportunity to fully be at the helm with his best self. Because obviously pre Chris Paul in that era, he was the guy, but he was still young and didn't have all the pieces yet. But I think he's starting to put it together. He has a great relationship with Jordan. Speaks very highly of him. So it seemed like everything was trending in a good direction. But even before the injury, Mike, Booker wasn't playing very good. Not putting up the numbers that are characteristic of Devin Booker. And I don't know if it was, I don't think we've heard, and maybe this is wild speculation unrelated, but was there something lingering or nagging, maybe even subconsciously he didn't realize, that finally, gave way, and that's why he went out on Monday? But we don't play again until Friday, like you mentioned, in Houston. It's hard to imagine he does come back, though, especially with where this team is at, and you want to play it safe, because I'd rather have Devin Booker here for the long haul rather than to force him in, especially for what is going to be a tough matchup, like you said. But I do think, looking at the schedule here, just at the last end of the year, there are a good 4 or 5 games we can win. We can definitely beat New Orleans twice. We can beat Washington and Sacramento, but of course, a lot of tough games mixed in there as well. Sorry, Mike, that was the last thing I wanted to touch in on the schedule, because as you see as well in there, you have Houston, Oklahoma City, again, Cleveland, a lot of tough games. So buckle up. But once this team gets healthy, I expect them to continue to roll. But Mike, what were you pulling up there? It looked like something on Devin Booker.
Yeah. Do you want me to pull it up again here?
Yeah. Let me see that.
We talked about the annual nature of the groin injury with Devin Booker, and John Voida from Dark Side of the Suns, he's got it for you. December's to forget. Devin Booker has injured his groin for the 3rd time in the past 4 Decembers. 2022 he missed 20 games, 2024 he missed 5 games, and 2025 is still TBD. That was obviously late last night after he had been injured. I'm looking up on X.com, not finding anything about speculation on injury time frame or anything just yet. I was listening to the post game last night on the radio, and they were saying that it seemed like maybe Book pulled himself a little bit earlier. I think he had injured it on a drive, but since he's had this injury so many times, I think he knows when the onset of it is coming. So you're crossing your fingers that you're looking at the maybe 5 games missed comparative to 20. So we just don't know, obviously. And the one thing that I have hated about this season, if there is much to hate, because there's not much to hate about what's been happening, is the inability to see Jalen Green and Devin Booker on the floor together, to see what that tandem really looks like. It gives me the thought process of when Bradley Beal first came along and missed the beginning of that first season, comes back, then Devin gets hurt, and then Devin comes back and there goes Brad again. And then Brad comes back. Well, there goes KD. So we were just waiting for so long to see what the true put together product looked like. And unfortunately, if this is going to be something that lingers, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But we still don't know the evaluation from Jalen Green. Like we said, it was 4 to 6 week time frame. Hopefully it's not on the 6 weekend. It's on the sooner side. But then again, Chris, it could be on the longer side, because you have to think this was the third time that Jalen Green has re-injured this hamstring. And they are going to be extremely cautious to the most extreme extent that they possibly can with that hamstring and Jalen Green, because he is a key piece that you brought back from that Kevin Durant trade. And it's been paying dividends so far with Dylan Brooks, but you want that big dividend to continue to, flourish when you bring Jalen Green into this lineup. But man, Chris, I think we're going to have to do Pass the Outlet next week. All right. Because I'm looking at this and I know it's your favorite time of year. We got to look at it really fast, because the Phoenix Suns have found themselves as the representative for the Western Conference in what is it? They didn't win the group, but they're like the wild card, right? So the Suns are in the NBA Cup. They made it. They've done it. But with doing so, they get to play the Thunder once again. So they're going to be playing them December 10th in Oklahoma City at 5:30 p.m. I think it only makes sense that we'll have to do a little bit of a deep dive, maybe into that matchup next week on Pass the Outlet. Have some fun, because then if the Suns do make some kind of crazy move here in the NBA Cup and find themselves in Las Vegas on Tuesday, December 16th, I don't know if we'll be able to do a stream, because I think I'll be in Vegas watching that game. So yeah, we already made a promise. VSP Tallman already made a promise that we'll be there. We can't break promises. That's not what we do here at VSP.
Yeah, we'll be there. I feel a cough coming on. I think there might be a sickness on that Tuesday. Yeah, that would be absolutely wild. But obviously, a massive hurdle to overcome there in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
But just look at who they could possibly match up against. Talking about
they just beat the Lakers. They beat the Spurs
very handedly, I might put it as well, and they beat the Spurs twice. So
yeah.
I like our chances if you can get through OKC. Hopefully it's one of those situations where, you take the tape, everything that you learned, and the Suns pushed Oklahoma City to the limit. But will they find those little kinks in the armor? Can they find the true cracks that can take down this Oklahoma City squad? Because, man, there just really isn't a lot right now. What are they, 19-1? They've only lost one game this year so far, I believe. But the Suns have been their best matchup, either than that loss that they have had. So I'm loving the Suns' chances, and I think this is something that they're going to come out to play for. But that's at the same time why, if Devin Booker is really dealing with, a little extension for that groin, and it is something that you don't want to push him back through, that's fine. Let him sit out this next week so he's ready to go in this quarterfinals matchup, because you're going to need him if you're going to knock off this Thunder squad. So, Vegas, here we come, Chris?
I hope so. Fingers crossed. And I do think that Devin Booker will be like the deciding factor in how close we can. But I mean, I don't know. Anything's possible with this Suns team. I'm excited. I mean, Mike, the last thing I really wanted to bring up, Suns related, I know we are going to obviously, have Pass the Outlet here real soon, but I read this article, or kind of browsed this article in Bleacher Report today, where they updated their NBA win-loss record predictions for the entire NBA. And the Phoenix Suns, at the beginning of the season, before the season started, they had their prediction at 26 wins and 56 losses. And this article came out on Monday, I believe, so yesterday, and they've updated it. Now they project the Suns will win 35 games with 47 losses. So 9 more wins projected for the Suns. And they said the Phoenix Suns are among the league's biggest early surprises, riding an active defense and a spin cycle offense that keeps the Rock moving to a 12-9 start across their first 21 games. Expect plenty of pressure when facing Phoenix. New head coach Jordan Ott's system is designed to make life difficult for opposing ball handlers, and the Suns are forcing turnovers at a top 5 rate that actively extends to the other end, where Phoenix crashes the offensive glass aggressively. They go on to talk about Colin Gillespie, Devin Booker, and the like. But Mike, I love that the national media is noticing, but I don't want them to notice too much, right?
Keep your distance a little bit. Keep your distance. We like flying under the radar because I feel like that's where we see the most of our success. So that's great, right? Predictions going up, recognizing how this team competes on a nightly basis, especially on the defensive end, and working as a cohesive unit on the offensive end. It's led to the successes of this team so far to start, and it has truly been a pleasant surprise. Now, keep in mind, right at the end of the day, I think what did we both have? We were right in those mid-30 ranges. I still think that has to be where you kind of keep an eye out, because until Mark Williams starts to play back-to-backs and consistently plays, and you have a true backup that is a little bit more competent, I think, than Nick Richards, because I think Nick Richards has kind of shown his hand that I don't know if he's truly ready to play big boy basketball with these true contenders in the Western Conference specifically. But then you have to just start thinking about some of these other matchups that the Suns are going to have coming down that you probably didn't think were going to be like truly crazy competitive games. Like back-to-back against Golden State is still going to be tough. You got to play the Cavaliers at the end of this month. OKC again, Houston, obviously. The New York Knicks are one of the best teams in the East. And you have to start facing off at some of the best in the Eastern Conference too. Like Detroit is coming up soon. You got to play Atlanta again. So it's no cupcake schedule. And I think the Suns, if they continue to live right around that 500 mark, they're going to have a really good shot at least getting into the play-in for the playoffs. Because whoa, Chris, some of these teams in the Western Conference that are at the bottom of this list, I don't know how they get out of the crater that they've created for themselves already. Like you look at the Utah Jazz, who, yes, we probably expected, but then like Los Angeles Clippers sitting at 5-16, like I don't think there's shots for some of these teams already. So if you're hovering right around 500, this might be the first time in how many years that a couple of teams that honestly might even be under 500 have a chance to be one of those top 10 seeds. So I don't know if I'm ready to put them at, 46 and 42 for record wise. Well, that wouldn't be correct. 46 and yeah, that would be correct. 42, 82 games, right? It's still a long season. We just hit the, 20 game mark a couple of days ago. But they've shown, I think, enough throughout the first quarter of this season that they are a tough out. And if you don't come to play your best basketball against this team, they will push you to the limit and more often than not squeak out wins because they seem to be the more buttoned up squad to start this year. So I've been truly impressed with everything the Phoenix Suns have been doing. Hopefully the bills of health start to turn once again, but we know how that goes in the NBA. But man, can't wait to get out there soon. Hopefully my season tickets, because of the cup, they always keep one game non-scheduled at home. So I'm hoping I get this game coming up next week or the week after, because my next tickets aren't until December 23rd. And like, I'm itching, dude. 20 days before I get to go see these boys play again. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, that'll be tough. We might have to make some arrangements to just maybe buy some. We'll talk, because I'm trying to make it out to some games this year, especially since like I hate to do it. Like I hate to say this, but it's a down year, so the tickets aren't as expensive as when we're in like a contending window. I mean, at least in theory. There's always the secondary market and whatnot, so might be able to catch like a random like Trailblazers game. I don't know. Obviously, they don't have the Trailblazers coming up anytime soon. But those are the games I'm trying to go to because I just love going downtown. I love seeing the Suns. But yeah, I mean, Mike, you mentioned it there though. The Suns are always going to come to play this season, so it seems. And if you take a night off, they're going to make you pay. And I think I don't want to project anything, but I feel like maybe the Thunder are now going to be on notice after squeaking by the Suns this last week. So when it comes to that NBA Cup matchup, they might not underestimate them this time. Not saying they did before, but if they did, I don't think they're going to do that a second time. And we'll just have to see, because that Thunder team, man, is just so brutal, man. It's just brutal. And get ready, guys. That's like the new Golden State Warriors, but worse. But all that aside, Mike, we've gone through so many topics, a lot of emotions here. I know I've gone on a few tangents, but I'll give you the floor one last time if you want to say goodbye to the people or share anything else on your mind.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of the year, man. I think we touched on it. We're still going to try and get on the mic, hopefully once a week. We might miss a week or two, obviously, with the holidays coming up, but it's important for everybody to enjoy the rest of this year with your friends, with your family, and with our sports teams, even if some of them still suck. But, we still got some great things to look forward to. ASU versus U of A matchups coming early in January on the hardwood. The Phoenix Suns hopefully can make a push in the NBA Cup. And the Arizona Cardinals can hopefully tank and end up with a top 5 pick, but we'll see how those things go. Chris, it is always a pleasure to chop it up Arizona sports with you. Appreciate you, man. And we out.
Yes, sir. We're going to get out of here. Mike, you said it best. It's a good time of year, but our schedule might be a little bit in flux. So make sure you're following us on all of our social media so you know when we are going live. We'll always post it beforehand, especially day of. Live streams will always be on Tuesday. Of course, we're going to have the Heat Check podcast coming out, one last one for this month. We'll get it out to you in some form or fashion. But if you are wondering where you can find us, that's going to be at AZ_VSP on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and so much more. All of our links will be in the description below, including right here on YouTube, Valley Sports Plug. Just type us in Google and you will find us. We are there. We do our video streams on Tuesday, the Heat Check podcast in video format here on YouTube, available for you at all times. All of our live streams that we do here on YouTube are available audio only next day on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more, which, Mike, that just kind of reminded me, the last thing I'm going to say is Spotify Wrapped, if I'm correct, my intel is correct, will be coming out tomorrow for all you Spotify users. It's something, as someone who loves music, I listen to a ton of music. I look forward to it every year. I'm a big stats guy too, so it's like two of my favorite things, stats and music, and I get to just be a nerd for a day. So share yours, post it in the comments on a Valley Sports Plug. I want to see what you got, and maybe I'll share mine with you guys, so be on the lookout. But I thank you all. If you've made it this far in the stream or the playback, you're a real one. We appreciate you. Tell your friends, tell your family, follow Valley Sports Plug, and stick with us. We got a big year coming for you in 2026, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But for Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you then. Peace.